There's something almost defiant about Angus Young. While the music world constantly reinvented itself, chasing trends, trading guitars for synthesizers, ditching leather for labels, Angus never budged. One Gibson SG, one schoolboy uniform, one mission: to make rock louder, rawer, and more honest than anyone else dared. He didn't just play the guitar, he was the guitar. And yet, it's not his solos or his fame that make him unforgettable. It's that, in a world obsessed with evolution, he stayed exactly the same and somehow kept rising. No rebranding, no reinvention, no side projects. Just riffs, sweat, and a fire that refused to go out. Angus Young didn't follow the industry. He made it chase him. Angus Young was born into smoke and grit, Glasgow, 1955. The youngest of 8 kids, he grew up in a house so cold, they'd huddle around the oven for warmth. No heater, no fridge, often just one meal a day. But inside that bleak Scottish apartment, there was one bright thing: music. His older brothers played instruments, and from a young age, Angus knew this wasn't just entertainment. It was escape. When the family moved to Australia in 1963, it wasn't for adventure, it was survival. They landed in a metal migrant hostel where heat cooked the walls by day and frostbit through by night. But something changed in Angus. In that noise and chaos, music became more than a dream. He started on a banjo, strung like a guitar. No lessons, just instinct. By the time he got his first second-hand SG, his fingers already bled from hours of practice. He wasn't learning music, he was becoming it. Before the world knew Angus Young, he was just a quiet teenager with an old guitar and no clear path. He bounced through bands like Kentucky and Tantrum, playing tiny shows and perfecting the way he moved, hit chords, and owned the stage without saying a word. But it wasn't until the Marcus Hook Roll Band, alongside his brothers George and Malcolm, that things began to click. Their album flopped, but it gave Angus his first real taste of the studio, and more importantly of chemistry. He wasn't chasing fame, he was chasing power. The schoolboy uniform wasn't a joke, it was a fluke that stuck. His sister Margaret suggested it, and Angus leaned into the idea without knowing it would define him forever. With a Gibson SG strapped on and Chuck Berry's duck walk burned into his legs, the childlike costume turned into a symbol. People saw him as wild, uncontainable, almost cartoonish. But behind that look was total control. That uniform wasn't childish, it was armor. And with Malcolm by his side, AC/DC was born, fueled not by polish but by unstoppable energy. AC/DC didn't break through, they bulldozed their way in. From high voltage to Let There Be Rock, Angus was a storm on stage, while Malcolm built the thunder beneath. But it was Highway to Hell that launched them into legend. The riffs were tighter, the fire sharper. Angus burned across every track like a fuse lit at both ends. Then, out of nowhere, it all collapsed. Bon Scott, their fearless frontman, died after a night of heavy drinking. No press release, no tribute tour. Angus just vanished, silenced by the kind of grief you don't talk about. They could have ended it right there, but they didn't. With Brian Johnson on vocals, the band entered the studio during a literal thunderstorm. Back in Black was born, part tribute, part rebellion against death itself. No gimmicks, just raw sound. From the toll of Hell's Bells to the immortal title track, Angus channeled heartbreak into something eternal. He didn't talk about loss. He turned it into sound. And somehow, through the pain, the band became even bigger than before. Malcolm Young was never loud. He didn't jump into solos or soak up the spotlight. But to Angus, he was everything: the rhythm, the anchor, the other half of a language only they spoke. So when Malcolm started forgetting riffs, losing chords, and finally his place in the songs, it wasn't just a medical diagnosis. It was heartbreak unfolding in slow motion. Dementia crept in quietly and then all at once. And Angus watched his brother fade, not in a blaze of drama, but piece by silent piece. Malcolm stepped away. Stevie Young stepped in. The band kept going, but something had shifted forever. When Power Up came out in 2020, it wasn't just a new album. It was Angus saying goodbye in the only way he knew how. Through the Mists of Time didn't name Malcolm, but every lyric carried his shadow. Angus didn't give interviews or eulogies. He didn't need to. Every chord said what words never could. He wasn't just keeping the band alive. He was keeping his brother with him. At 70, Angus Young isn't coasting on nostalgia, he's still chasing lightning. No retirement tour, no farewell speech, no glossy memoir. Just that same faded uniform, same battered Gibson SG, and the same duck walk across stages, packed with fans who weren't even born when Back in Black dropped. While the music world shifted to algorithms and auto-tune, Angus stayed exactly where he was, loud, unfiltered, and completely unbothered by trends. He doesn't post on social media. He doesn't headline documentaries. He plays, quietly, obsessively, and with the same fire he had as a kid in a Villawood hostel. That's what makes him a legend. Not the noise, but the consistency. Angus Young never needed to prove anything. He just played. And in doing so, he reminded the world what rock was always meant to be. Raw, loyal, and defiantly alive. Even if one day he walks off that stage for the last time, his riffs will still echo, louder than words, louder than memory, louder than time.